Welcome, kind listeners, to Under the Banyan Tree.
The live show where ancient epics meet modern minds.
I'm Leo, a yogini from the West,
And I am Mayank, a rationalist from the East.
and together we journey through the Mahabharata from the retelling of Ramesh Menon, epic of war, fight, and everything in between.
So, Leo, what's our sankalpa for today?
So, our sankalpa for today, our intention is to read 2 chapters. The chapters are the chapter 3, the river sun, and chapter 4, ascent of heaven, from the point of view wearing the lenses of sacrifice.
Oh,
And
yes.
to help us with, recapping these 2 chapters, would you mind doing a summary for us? So to basically move on to Shravan, I want to hear what you have to tell us about these 2 chapters.
Okay. So, I start. So, after Ganga took the 8th son with her, Shantanu was all alone and he started living like a hermit. And because he was alone, he used to spend his time near the banks of Ganga. And one day he sees that the flow of Ganga has been stopped by a dam made of arrows. And then suddenly he hears her, Ganga, and she's happy seeing that dam. And for a second, Shantanu feels she's coming back, but that was not the case. And Shantanu gets to know that dam was made by a young man, a 16-year-old, who is none other than his son, Devvrat. Ganga introduces Devvrat to Shantanu, tells him that he has been educated properly, he's a worthy enough king for the throne of Hastinapur in future, and takes her leave. Shantanu and Devvrat are back in Hastinapur, and Devvrat has been nominated as the crown prince of Hastinapur. People are happy because he is a capable crown prince. And then Shantanu goes out again one day for hunting, but this time on the banks of river Yamuna. And he smells kind of a scent which is from heaven. And he gets mesmerized and finds out that that scent is coming from a young lady. Shantanu introduces himself to her and says, I want to marry you. And that lady, who is none other than Satyavati, says, you can talk to my father, who is the fisherman king. Shantanu goes and talk to that person saying, I want to marry your daughter. And the fisherman king says, you can marry my daughter, but I have one condition. My one rishi prophesied that my daughter and her sons will rule this land someday, and you will have to promise me that it's her sons who become the kings or the descendants of this throne later. And Shantanu thinks about Devvrat. He feels sad about his position, and after giving a final look to that beauty and to that smell of Satyavati, he comes back disheartened.
Right? Fantastic. I don't have much to add to
Okay.
it. Just one detail that Shantanu was actually a great ruler during these 16 years. His sorrow made him wiser.
Yeah.
And it's a detail, but I think it's important, especially when I look at our theme, that is sacrifice. So thinking about sacrifice, what's your understanding of sacrifice?
So I actually just wrote 2 simple meanings which I can come up. One is to give up something. And I just thought of, the daily use cases, scenarios where we use this word. So one is to give up something, and second is an offering to a deity. But later, when I was thinking, I felt an offering to a deity is also like giving up something, like something which belongs to you, but now you have given it to a deity. But I felt that can also be something which I can find in the text, and therefore I made note of both these, both of these. I am not sure if I found the second way somewhere, but let's see.
Remind me of the second way, I'm sorry.
Something which you offer to a deity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
To a god or a goddess.
Yeah. I have more or less the same understanding of sacrifice. However, I always remember the etymology of the word.
Mm-hmm.
That is, sacrifice, it's to make something sacred. So, and I use it in the interpretation of and the reading of these two chapters. To give up something of value for something of a different value, or that we consider of a higher value, or to those, sometimes, I sacrifice this for you.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes quite in line with your understanding of sacrifice. So where did you see sacrifice in our text?
I think the very first instance was the first 16 years of Shantanu, where he started living like a hermit. And I felt it was a sacrifice because for a king, a powerful king, everything is possible. And if he wanted, he can have as many queens or women possible. But he...
Yeah, but that was my question.
Mm-hmm.
That were those 16 years
Mm-hmm.
a sacrifice? What was he sacrificing? It was his choice to be a hermit. And okay, I could call it tapasya, but I don't see it as he's sacrificing himself for something.
So I don't see it as a sacrificing himself for something, but I see sacrificing pleasure for someone.
But
And
you can't sacrifice something that you don't want.
You can't sacrifice something that you don't want?
Yeah,
No, but
he was not. He was longing for Satyavati. Sorry, he was longing for a Ganga. She didn't come back, and my feeling was that he was much more in acceptance and the way he behaved, so focusing on ruling and his kingdom was a coping mechanism.
So I have written this that is sacrificing pleasures for loss of someone a justified coping mechanism, or is it even needed?
Yeah.
But humans have a tendency to do this. Having said that, I feel that you can say that it's not a sacrifice from his perspective, but it can be categorized as a sacrifice if you see it from a third person perspective. That's what I feel. Like, for example, if someone is doing tapasya, they are doing it out of their own will. So they can say that they are not sacrificing anything. That's what they want to do. But if someone from...
in that situation, and I agree with you, okay? I asked the question, were those 16 years a sacrifice or were they a coping mechanism? I have the question. But at the end, I was like, I think I'm being too kind or too emotional or to label it as a sacrifice. He's done the sacrifice before, I think, of letting his son go, and that's it. And now he was in acceptance, and he would even go, and now I'm introducing another place where from my understanding, I saw sacrifice
Hmm.
in another way. So he turned the place where he met Ganga and lost Ganga. He made it a sacred place for him.
And so you are saying by the etymology,
Yeah.
that's a sacrifice. Because in our regular interpretation of sacrifice
Yeah.
in day to day or modern lives, we don't consider that as a sacrifice. But yeah, by etymology, yeah.
And it was the place where 7 babies were sacrificed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. In that sense, we can say that there is a hint of sacrifice in that particular place.
And I only can talk about the religion where I was raised, but I think this is across most religions, that there's places that we consider sacred, and and they are places where people go many times to sacrifice themselves in order of something bigger. So that, and I'm pushing it.
Yeah,
I'm
because
arguing.
I was thinking like I only took it whatever instances I've made note of, they are on the modern interpretations of sacrifice. But again, kind listeners, you can be the
Share.
judge and share your opinion on this and how you perceive this as a sacrifice. But yeah, I think in a way, like, I'm happy that you found out the etymology and then also tried to see those instances in the text, and I appreciate
Thank you.
that hard work. So what can you share any other instance where you saw sacrifice?
I don't know. So I saw sacrifice by the absence of it.
Mm-hmm.
In the fact that Shantanu now would go hunting, but he would not kill any animal.
Yeah.
He would simply observe the animals. And I started wondering why he wouldn't do that. It was Ganga that taught him ahimsa.
Mm-hmm.
It was because Ganga was kind and delicate to every animal that he couldn't gather the strength to kill an animal. And ahimsa means non-violence, literally. And it's associated with the Vedas and with the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali. It has different interpretations, but in a simple way, let's call it non-violence. And I want your opinion on this.
So I actually made a note of this, that he sacrificed killing, and so I just made a note that he sacrificed killing.
Yeah, but why?
I think like now when you said
Sacrificing killing?
yeah like now when you said this, I thought of this, and the only possible explanation I can come up with is probably he saw his 7 sons die.
Yeah.
And that has messed up that messed up his head. So maybe like that's the first theory I can come up with, because I didn't think why he gave up. Like I just read it and I was like, yeah, okay, he gave up. But now when you were saying this and when you posed this question, why, the first thing which clicked into my head was he saw his 7 sons, babies die. He saw innocence dying. Probably he saw the similar innocence in those animals later, and therefore he was not able to kill them anymore.
That's a good answer. Thank you. Thank you.
That's a good question. That's why I can come up with a good answer. Were there any other instances in the chapter the reverse sun, the chapter 3, where you can find sacrifice.
So I thought that Ganga sacrificed a lot, but in this chapter, so Ganga sacrificed 16 years of her life. I know that time it's irrelevant for her, but even though she had to ask for favors to educate Devavrata, so there I see that as a sacrifice, and she sacrificed her own waters to show off, to prove how brave and strong their son.
Yeah, I think I genuinely feel that this one, I never thought of this scenario that she sacrificed her own flow to show how powerful Devrat is. I just made, and probably you may have made a note of this. I made a note in the end. This in the text was the first time we saw that Ganga was getting little emotional when she had to leave Devrat. So therefore I wrote that there was a sacrifice from Ganga, his son, and from Devrat, his mother. Okay, he will be living with his father, but
and I thought about saying this later, but by the end of the 2 chapters, I thought that Devavrat was the sacrifice in the sense of the offering.
Okay.
And I know this is...
But offering to whom?
It was an offering from Ganga to Shantanu.
But when you... So now, when we... I'm just trying to counter your argument. So when we make an offering, you usually expect something in return, no?
No. I do a lot of offerings, and I don't consider them a sacrifice. Or even, I consider them sacrifice as making a gesture sacred. But I rarely expect anything in return.
Like, I'm just thinking that...
And maybe she's expecting something in return. The end of an era. Maybe she's expecting,
Like, I'm just thinking it as a selfish interest. So if you make a sacrifice, you have a selfish interest in it. Like, that's how...
I don't see it that way. Quite the opposite.
Especially, but if you're talking about the second thing, the first interpretation which I gave was giving up something. So if you say that she is giving up Devrat to Shantanu, I may agree to that. But if you say that it's kind of an offering to Shantanu, then I think, like, what is she expecting in return? Because if you are making an offering to a god or something, in general, people have expectations.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not like general people.
Good.
And I think she is doing an offering in, she trained him. She made him, all knowledgeable and everything. And she's giving it to Shantanu. And she can be expecting something like the end of an era. She knows that the era of Kshatriya needs to end. Like, she knows when he will die. So, yes, maybe she's expecting something in return.
Yeah, but then my question is, what is she expecting?
That him is able of ending the era of the Kshatriya.
And what's her personal interest in that? Because I'm thinking it in a personal...
They are maintaining the cycles.
Okay. I will again.
And now that that you mentioned that, you made me think about the fact that Vashishta, that was the one that cursed him, was the one that taught him the Vedas and the Vedangas. Or maybe it's another Vashishta.
Both possibilities are possible.
But I found very interesting this possibility of you curse someone and after you need to teach that one that you cursed. So it's there's always a consequence to your actions, and at the end it always turns back to you.
Yeah. I totally overlooked that. But yeah, it was a very nice, fine detail which you paid attention to. But yeah, I also made note of this thing that the sacrifice of Ganga and Shantanu. Like, I don't know if Ganga considers it as a sacrifice, but for Shantanu it is going on, like he's not having Ganga with her. But again, it cannot be sacrificed. Like, it's just circumstances happening to them. Yeah. Okay. So
thank you. Yeah. He agreed with me. I found something interesting, and this goes a little bit away from the theme. But Shantanu, he even stopped thinking about his son. So she comes back and he says, "Oh, you came back to me. Let me say that our queen is back."
No, but by that time she didn't tell him that Devavrata is their son.
She told him that I will come back to return our son after 16 years. She comes back. He says, "Oh, you are going back." And she says, "No." And he asks, "Oh, so why are you here?" He poofed.
Yeah, maybe. And 16 years is a long time.
Do you think 16 years it's time enough to forget a son that you fought to not lose and you let go of theoretically the love of your life? I just found interesting.
I just feel it's very difficult to judge his state. Like, he has lost 7 sons. It's the 8th son, which was more or less nearly lost. He hardly saw his 8th son, and then he was gone. And as I said in last episode as well, that I feel he's an addict. So I can't expect a lot from an addict.
But at this moment, he let go of his addiction. He said, "Oh, now I look at her in a worshipful way." So it was like the emotion that pulled him towards her changed. I just found it interesting. It's just a side note. What else?
And then I think we can talk about the next chapter. Did you find any mention of theme there when Shantanu saw Satyavati and then talked to her father?
Oh, I think it was a major sacrifice when Shantanu turned away.
Yeah. And I think
at that moment I found, okay.
Yeah. I think, but I actually made a note of it that he turned and walked out, and I wrote, is this a sacrifice or not? Because I was also thinking that
I think it's a personal sacrifice. He's denying to himself for a greater good, for the good of Hastinapur and respect of Ganga and love for his son.
Yeah, so because he thought of all these people. He thought of Devavrata, he thought of Ganga, but he also thought of the scent of the fisher girl. So those 3 things. But I wrote this question because later somewhere, and I can't remember if it is from the book, but I remember it very clearly from the episodes of B.R. Chopra's Mahabharat that Devrat says that to the fisherman king that you asked my father for something which doesn't belong to him. I am the crown prince. I am the Yuvraj of this kingdom. It's only me who can give up this position. At least that's what he said. So how can my father give away my rights? So that's why I wrote it this way that
But fathers can give away the rights of a woman so easily.
yeah. So yeah, like I think probably he was just trying to justify his father there. But
Yeah.
like and he's a king. If he decides that okay, you are no longer a crown prince, who can stop him? Yeah, in that way it is a sacrifice, but if he would have done it, it would be very petty as well. So what do you think?
If he done what?
Like if he had agreed to the Fisher King, don't you think it's very petty? Like
That would be very. That's a very sweet word, I think. In the sense that would mean that he didn't learn anything
mm-hmm.
from the previous conditions that were imposed on him,
Mm-hmm.
and that he disregarded completely. Or he was simply a weak man that easily gave on his senses.
Yeah. I think in the second chapter I couldn't think of any other possibilities. Like I couldn't see where exactly I can put sacrifice. Because the chapter is like quite simple in its own. Like it's just
I have a few, although I didn't find sacrifice in much other places. I have a question that. So when Shantanu went to talk with Fisher King, the Fisher King didn't stand up. He continued eating his fish. And I look at him. And he goes. And Shantanu is talking, presenting himself, and okay, let me go and wash my hands. And do a namaste. And answers him. So the Fisher King answers Shantanu while he's cleaning his hands on the cloth. And I found this demeanor very interesting.
Yeah, even I made a note of that. And my note was that to me, he like his actions looked very arrogant in the text.
I don't know that I don't call it arrogant. I think were they arrogant were they just careless? It's like I don't care who you are, and that I don't care who you are might not come from arrogance.
I just feel like if you are meeting a king and a recognized king, it makes sense to pay them some respect.
I agree. That's or I understand the protocol.
Yeah.
And it's because he was raised in the wilderness, or it's simply because he didn't have any respect for Shantanu, or
I don't know. And this is
I find interesting because Shantanu didn't reacted to the lack of protocol from him.
And I also like I will have to give it to these kings in a sense that say if Shantanu wanted something, no one can deny him. Like if he wanted to marry Satyavati in any ways possible, he could have done it. Like he could have arrested that fisherman, asked get him killed. But the thing is he still has that I feel as a king, he has that sense that okay, no, they follow dharma in some sense.
Aha!
Yeah,
there you go. Okay,
no, but
if it was Duryodhan, yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
But it is Shantanu, so
Yeah,
he
so-
has another respect.
Yeah. So
of people.
I just feel that uh and again I'm going back to the episodes, and there the portrayal of that Fisher King was much more respectful. Here,
Mm-hmm.
even if you read the text, they have described him as someone who looks who, like his appearance has been emphasized, that he's black with unkempt
Mm-hmm.
uh,
The
hair,
dreadlocks.
yeah, threadlocks hanging to his shoulders. More or less, whenever he's talked about, he's always eating a fish. He has stained teeth. In a sense, kind of like I felt the author is trying to establish something about him through his appearance.
Mm-hmm.
And Shantanu also judged him as a crude fellow inside his head. So to me, it just felt like they are trying to give a particular portrayal, like at least the author is trying to give a particular portrayal to the Fisher King, and probably him not standing up and everything is.
It, just because he does not know.
Yeah, like it can be ignorance as well. Like you,
Yeah.
yeah, it may not be arrogance, it can be ignorance, but yeah, it, it was bit for me. It was bit strange that okay, a king is there, and
And what do you make of his condition? So I had two thoughts.
hmm,
First thought was he twisted what the fortune teller told. The second thought was, oh, there was actually two different prophecies.
mm-hmm,
The first prophecy saying that she would become a queen of a great kingdom,
mm-hmm.
and the second prophecy saying that her son would rule. What do you make of it?
So, do you have the original prophecy with
Yes,
you?
the original prophecy is a fortune teller who read the lines of her palm, sorry, said that one day she would become the queen of a great kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first prophecy that it's actually in the preface.
Okay.
The second prophecy, that it's what we have over here in the chapter, is Rishi told me that one day my daughter's son would be the king of all these lands.
I think there can be multiple prophecies as well. Like, for example, if it's like, say, think of this, that someone is destined for something and people came up to them
Do you
and,
think it's possible
hmm,
that he heard the first? So he heard the first prophecy,
hmm,
but what he listened inside of him was the second prophecy.
I
Because,
don't think so.
you
Hmm.
hear what you want.
Yeah, but to be honest, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
That the simple reason being, uh, like he was meant to do something. Like he was meant to ensure that ultimately what happens is that the lineage of Shantanu, like I'm saying in terms of, like, say, Vyas writing the story or
Mm-hmm.
something. As an author, he just wants that the lineage of Shantanu, instead of going towards Devvrat, will go towards some other direction. And for that, you need a pivot. And this pivot is, and it can be totally possible that this person made this story up in his head. That he,
But why? I'm like a 3 years old kid. Why?
I think it's just simple. Like he just wants that. I actually thought in a way, and I'm not saying he's a good parent, but I actually thought he's a good parent in the sense that he tried to secure the rights of his uh, daughter and their descendants then, because in many ways it's true. Like, people think of these possibilities that, say, if the lineage goes in other direction or something, then what will happen to my grandsons or my grandchildren's. So Okay, it was a very selfish move, but he probably he's doing that selfish move for his daughter, and
Do you think he knew about Devavrata being the parent here?
I think so. I
And
I don't think, like, that's the thing, like, I think there are two fishermen kings. So the one from novel looks like either he's ignorant or I don't know, arrogant or whatever. But the one from episodes, he knew everything very well. And he was a much more reasonable person if you watch
or
him in
maybe this one
episodes.
is very smart in the sense of he uses his apparent uh, rawness or
Hmm.
lack of of politeness and to be perceived as an ignorant man,
Hmm.
and therefore they would never question his uh, his condition. They think, oh, he's a simple person, so
I will
there's
probably
no strategy behind it.
I will still give him benefit of doubt. I will say we should not attribute malice to stupidity. Like, for now, like, I'm
And
okay.
I'm sorry, I don't consider the move
Hmm.
good or bad.
Hmm.
I'm not looking at a good or bad intention from the fisherman.
Hmm.
I'm just saying that the way he looks, it maybe makes other people underestimate his capacity of foresight, of thinking what you just said,
Hmm.
thinking about his lineage and his daughter lineage.
Hmm. Yeah, like only that fisherman king can tell us that what goes on through his head. But I think because they used the words like crude, like Shantanu judging
Mhm.
him as a crude fellow or something, I just feel that to establish all this, I guess they may have to give him such attributes in the text which they have given. So that's what I felt. But yeah, on his like on the prophecy side, I can also perceive that there can be multiple prophecies
Mhm.
about Satyavati, like, say, enlightened people coming who want to cross the river, and they see her and they tell her that you are not meant to do this job, you are meant for something bigger. And someone else saying it in a different way, that, oh, you are meant to rule this land, and someone else saying in a much
Mhm.
different way, your sons are
Mhm.
supposed to rule this land. So there.
But it's mentioned in the text that he hold on to that prophecy in his heart. The man's eyes shone with the prophecy he had cherished so long.
So that way there can be one prophecy as well. Like, I just feel the he's just there as a pivot, and he pivoted the whole story from. And that's why I think that one line is also very important, which we didn't talk about, that Ganga says that I will, like, he is a very capable, like, for Devvrat, she says that he, let me just go back because I made a note of it. And I do not think Kurus will find a better heir for this ancient throne than my Devrat. And I
Mhm.
wrote it as a tragedy that eventually the person who was the most deserving one was left out.
And the most capable.
Yeah, most capable. He deserved it. He was capable. And eventually the whole lineage went into other direction. And to ensure that, our fisherman king he was there to ensure this. And I just felt like this, and in that moment I felt maybe Ganga is not as much goddess as they defined her, probably because she has, I like reading this, I felt she has no idea what is about to happen with Devvrat eventually.
I think she has all the idea of what will happen to Deborah.
And still she said this.
Because that's the, in a way, you give the tools, but now let them hunt. That's the rule of a mother and a father. At some stage, you have to let them make their own mistakes. You can't interfere.
So,
and
Ganga is treating her husband like a parent, that you make your own mistakes. I can't do a lot now.
And I hold on to that theory that he is fulfilling the end of an era. And Ganga said, "You can call me." So if Devavrata didn't call her, she didn't come, and that's fair.
When Devrat should have called her?
Before taking the oath.
Oh, okay.
I'm going a little bit ahead on the text.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. We are running away from our focus. So let's come back.
Yeah.
And on that note, is there any part of the text that inspired you? Is there any lesson that you took from these two chapters?
There was that line, but I think it was a similar line which we discussed in last chapter as well, that all that is past. When the sun sets on one day, who can call him back? So, like, that's why I may not spend time here, but I liked this line. But one thing which I liked, and it has nothing to do with philosophy or anything, just the storytelling which I liked, was that this parallel that Rishi Parashar got seduced by the earthly
scent
of Satyavati or Matsyagandhi, while a king got seduced by a heavenly smell. So to me, it was like how different people perceive, like what are their. It's kind of. I felt it like
you are attracted by what you don't have.
Yeah, something like that. So I just liked that parallel and I just made a note of it.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else?
I'm good. Do you find anything?
I've done two parallels and a reflection, but maybe my parallels are empty. But one thing that I noticed was that Shantanu, my perception is that he loves his son because he's perfect. He guesses all his wishes. He is much mature than his age. So he loves him, he likes him, and after loves him. However, and probably if he didn't have all those characteristics, he wouldn't love him, because there's no primary bonding on when he was a baby and a kid and seeing him growing up.
Okay.
This is all theory.
Yeah.
In the opposite side, we have Dhritarashtra that loves Duryodhan
no matter what.
No matter what.
That's a good parallel. It's a good parallel. Yeah, and I will again here I will not comment because I don't want to make the video long, but I will let our kind listeners.
What do you think about this?
Yeah, go about it. Like, who was a better father, Shantanu or Dhritarashtra?
Ooh, that's a very juicy question. Okay.
What more?
Moving on.
Yeah.
My lesson is do not make a decision under the inebriation of your senses.
Mm-hmm. That's a good decision. That's a good lesson for sure. But
I don't know if we can do it, okay?
yeah.
But Shantanu teach me this.
Mm.
Every time that he is completely overcome by his senses, by his senses/emotions, he tends to take very bad decisions. And I even questioned if he crowned too early Devavrata.
Mm.
Why he didn't wait a little? Okay, it was 4 years, fair enough. But, and he had to gather all his forces and memories and energy to not answer. Okay, he just turned back. He didn't say, I do not accept your condition.
Mm.
That's not reasonable. He simply turned away, and his eyes, they were betraying him and looking at Satyavati. So, every time that I have the clarity of seeing myself in that state, to make sure I don't make any decision. That's my lesson from the text.
Okay, I have a lot to say and think about this, but I think this is this is good time. This is good time.
You can write a comment.
Yeah, I will write a comment on on our own video from our own channel.
Yes, saying what you think about this.
Yeah, I will do that.
Okay, and it's time to wrap up.
Yeah, time to wrap up. Time for Naman, our acknowledgements.
Okay, go ahead.
I was thinking you will go first.
No, I think it's I told enough.
Yeah, so I think in this chapter I would like to uh, Naman Ganga, because I just felt like she did her whatever best she could to educate Devrat, and then it may have been hard, for sure, those 16 years. And then after that, giving up on a son whom you are so proud of and who loves you so much, and you love him so much. So I just felt, especially when she was getting little bit emotional, but she had to portray herself as strong as well. So I just felt for her, and therefore my naman in these two chapters was for Ganga.
Thank you. That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. And
Controversial.
yeah, go ahead.
My naman is my respect. It's for
For Satyavati.
Satyavati.
Mm-hmm.
And why? Because she's again a woman where her life it's decided,
Mm-hmm.
and the only right that she has is to observe and comply.
Mm-hmm.
And to see the change and women being empowered. But this reminds me of the times where a woman even didn't know that she had any right. So I want to naman her, all the women that were treated like that, and probably the ones that even nowadays are knowingly or unknowingly treated like.
That's a good naman.
Thank you.
So I think this is it.
Yes, so we'll be back next week with the next chapter, only one chapter, chapter 5, a solemn vow, and we will read it through the lenses of trying to find integrity.
Yay.
Thank you so much. Thank you
Thank you
for
so
listening.
much. Thank you for listening. You have any last words, or I can just give a call out?
Call out.
Okay, and this is a call out for all of you to like, share, and subscribe. Spread the word with your friends and family, and we will see you soon.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.